Hey folks, I've kind of noticed something that has a dynamic that has kind of changed a little bit as I progressed in my transition, and um, as I've really gotten to a point of just passing as male in the general public, um, and as I've experienced changes on testosterone as far as how I interact with people. Um, so I figured I would just make a quick video, hopefully quick, and talk about that a little bit. Um, I identify as a man, a trans man. But I feel like, and I said this actually long ago before I even came out, that I felt like I'm just a person and that I didn't really specifically need a gender. And I think if society was more um, understanding of agender people, I guess I would probably ID as agender. Just because that probably fits the best. It's just easier to ID as a man and be perceived that way. And, I am comfortable and validated being perceived as a man. So, but being a man comes with kind of these ideas of how you have to interact and what kind of a emotional being you have to be. Um, and I guess that's kind of my main part with the only really area where I feel like I don't really fit as a guy, because society has such a screwed up idea of what it means to be a guy or a girl, um, and that's the main problem. Really, the problem is with society, not with me, and I know that. It's just hard to convince society of that, so to some degree, I just play along and not try and explain myself to most people. Um, but the people I'm close to, I want them to see me as me and know that just because, yes, I'm a guy doesn't mean that I can't relate to them on a more emotional, intimate level like I always used to. Um, and I guess that's what I would say has changed a little bit is how, well, I don't know if they've actually changed or if it's my perception of things, but how uh, girls view me and how they feel like they have to interact with me. Um, which I really don't interact with a ton of people all that often, so probably some of this is just in my head. Um, but because it's something I've worried about, just being accepted as one of the group. When you grew up always being friends with all girls, I was raised in a very religious culture in which I was not allowed to um, talk to people of the opposite gender. So, the boys and girls were split up, and we really weren't allowed to talk to them at all. So I didn't really have male friends from the age of like 5 or 6 um, until I left the church. Um, so I'm very accustomed to being close with girls, and while I'm not a girl myself, I grew up with them, and I know how they work, I know how their minds work, and I know how hormones and emotions and all that. I'm just very used to um, interacting with girls, and uh, I think now that I'm passing, people that don't know that I'm trans, that don't know my history, would just assume that I'm a guy that doesn't understand girls very well, and so they wouldn't be apt to interact with me in the same way that they would have in the past, um, which is a loss to me because girls are wonderful and um, they're very wonderful to be close with, and uh, there's a wonderful bond that girls have that I do feel like I've kind of lost, which is to some degree natural, although it shouldn't. It's only natural because that's the way that our society is divided. Um, Fortunately, I've got some friends that knew me before I transitioned, and knew me as I transitioned, and so they know who I always was and who I am now, and they still connect with me, and not in a way that invalidates me as a man, but just includes me as just a person that they can talk to. But with that being said, there is a degree of change as far as how I think and feel being on testosterone over the past 3 or 4 months, I would say, especially. Um, it does change a little bit of the way that your brain handles input and output. But there's still this part of me, the main part of me, that knows how I've always been and can hold on to that. I sometimes have a hard time, sometimes being more open like I used to. All growing up, I was very, very secluded person. I was very solitary. I was a lone wolf. And it wasn't until my late teen years when I really learned to open up and just have close friends and some people that I trusted. And I ended up becoming pretty good at just the more, I don't know, intimate aspect of friendships, being more vulnerable and stuff. And I feel like to some degree I've backslid a little bit since some of this change has gone on with testosterone. But because I'm aware of it, it's like I can work on it and not go back to being a wall, being in a shell. If anything, I've come out of my shell more socially. But as far as just being vulnerable, I'm still working on that. Yeah, I kind of don't know exactly where this video is going. It's just something I kind of have been thinking about the past couple days. I don't know. I just kind of wish that society was different enough that girls would still feel comfortable with me being on the same level as them. Because just because I'm a guy, I do not put myself higher than girls at all, especially having grown up, living in that realm. But for the most part, girls don't know that, so I don't know. All those years of trying to fit in with the girls, I never quite did, but now that I don't have to fit in with them, I still kind of feel that lack of fitting in, which is it's strange, but it doesn't bother me as much now. But I just miss connection. Girls are awesome, and I don't know. I need more friends, basically. I guess, and it's hard for me to connect with at least cisgender guys because I don't know. I just feel like they're too shallow most of the time, which that sounds mean, but their friendships with cis guys they're just not as fulfilling, I guess. Yeah, it's just part of this process, so free to talk a little bit about it. Pretty soon I'm going to be doing my update videos, so I'll be back soon for those. But I just wanted to get that out there, so that's all, and I'll catch you next time.